Grisselt. I'm the director of the River Falls Public Library. I'm happy you joined us tonight. I am super excited about our author tonight, Chia Gounza-Vang, and she'll help me with the pronunciation, I'm sure. I've met Chia before. This is her second book. We interviewed her last year for her first book. Her first book was titled The Illiterate Daughter, and her second book now is Dreamer's Dream. They're both excellent. I have read them both and thoroughly enjoyed them. And Chia is a social studies teacher. She's also a wife and a mother and an author. And I would love to tell you more, but I'm going to leave that to Chia to unravel her story for us. And then we'll do some short questions afterwards. I do want to thank our Library Foundation for helping us support all the incredible programs that we bring to the library. And with that, I will, Chia, take it over.
All right. Good evening. Um, Here's my PowerPoint. I am thankful, I am grateful to the River Falls Public Library for honoring and celebrating AA and NHAP, oh, I'm sorry, NHPI Heritage Month and inviting me to talk about the Dreamer's Dream, which is about the Hmong refugees' experiences. Today in my presentation, I will be giving a brief background information about the Vietnam War in Laos, in Vietnam and the secret war in Laos. I will also do a recap of the illiterate daughter, Dreamer's Dream, and also I will be talking mostly about the Hmong American refugees' experiences. The Vietnam War was from 1954 to 1975, and it was in Vietnam. 5 years later, the Secret War for 1961 to 1975. Um, Starting in January 3rd, 1961, CIA James W. Lair met with Colonel Vang Pao for the CIA covert anti-communist operation in Laos. After they met, they recruited the Hmong and trained them to fight with the U.S. forces against the North Vietnamese and the Communist Laos. Hmong soldier casualties ranged between 30 to 40,000 people during the Secret War from 1961 to 1975. My dad was a soldier, and he survived the war, but was wounded in the leg and was disabled. He passed away in 2017 in Laos. What inspired me to write? My students didn't know why Hmong people came to America, and I had a story to tell them about why my family and my husband's family came to America. So that got me into writing. My mother in law told me their story of fleeing Laos and the tragedies during the trek. So I learned a lot from her and wanted to write our stories for my students. This story is fiction, but it is inspired by the two events that happened to my family and my husband's family. My father was a soldier and he was wounded on the leg, and so was New's father in the story Dreamer's Dream, or actually both, illiterate daughter. When the war was over, my father refused to flee, believing there would be peace, and the family went into hiding in the forest for over a year. My husband's family fled many times for safety, and my mother-in-law lost her twins, a boy and a girl, while they were fleeing. The hazardous trek to Thailand for them was miserable. It was indescribable. There were many tragedies. I am a fan of historical fiction. I believe it's an engaging way to learn history. And so, to make the story engaging, I had to create a strong female protagonist. Compared to Western beliefs, Nu might not seem strong, but within the Hmong community, her character is actually incredibly strong. This is because Hmong women were only valued for their role as wives in the Hmong culture, but Nu challenges this traditional view through her actions and beliefs. So I learned that the best historical fiction should be entertaining and insightful. I want readers to learn, but also enjoy reading. I don't want too much facts, or I will lose my readers. So I tried it to make the story insightful and entertaining. In this book, you will learn about the harrowing story of Nu's family as they fight for survival in the aftermath of the secret war in Laos. It takes you through their hazardous trek to Thailand in search of safety amidst the distractions and tragedies caused by the war. I have been listening to Hmong storytellers telling people's real life stories on YouTube. And one of the stories I cried listening to was about this orphan girl crossing the Mekong River by herself at night in fear. It's a true story, and so I'm so thankful to have this woman for sharing her story. She talked about her difficult life, um, being an orphan, but the most heartbroken part was when she had to cross the Mekong River to save herself. She had just a bamboo pole to hold on to it. I want my readers to know that although Nu is a fictional character, a real girl had done it. She crossed the Mekong River by herself, and she was a very brave girl. Um, in this book, Nu's family arrived in Appleton, Wisconsin in 1978 as the first wave of Hmong refugees. Nu's family was not the first to arrive in Appleton, but they were part of the first wave of refugees. My family arrived in 1989, which is 11 years later, so my experience is somewhat different than Nu's. I had the privilege to interview a few of the first families who arrived in Appleton about what life was like for them coming to a new country. My research and experience allowed me to create this story, Dreamer's Dream, which is I'll be talking about this today, a lot today. In this book, Dreamer's Dream, readers will learn about Nu's family and the difficult challenges they face in a new country where they have no male figure, family member, or relative to rely on. Readers might will gain insight into the struggles and triumphs of this family as they navigate their new life and strive to overcome the obstacles they encounter. And again, the rest of my presentation will focus on Hmong refugees' experiences in America in general, and I will refer to Dreamer's Dream when something is related to it. So the first wave of Hmong refugees were sponsored by churches and organizations. This group had little to no preparation for American life and culture. Language barrier was a huge problem to this group of people. Like to communicate, these people actually used sign and body language, mostly like, nodding and smiling to show respect. Most people in this group came right from village life or hiding in the jungles. The men who worked closely with Americans spoke some English, but not everyone. So communication was challenging uh, to this group of refugees. In Dreamer's dream, Nu could only smile to show her gratitude to her sponsors. So if you look at the battles, would you think they are Jews if you can't read and have never seen vegetable oil? My sister-in-law drank oil instead of juice because she couldn't read and hadn't seen vegetable oil before. In Laos, we didn't have vegetable oils. I mean, not that I know of. We have pig oil, which is lard, and in room temperature, it's solid white. So we had never seen like golden liquid oil before. And so I wrote in the Dreamer's Dream that Nu couldn't read, and that's why she gave oil to her nephew. I also have heard stories about the first people, like the first group of refugees, not knowing how to operate a shower and faucets. And so they used the largest cooking pot to mix water to take a bath. And so that's why I put that in the book too, to show the refugees' struggles. Yes, homesickness, loneliness was a huge adjustment. Many more people couldn't drive and stayed inside looking out the window every day, just like the people in this picture. Of course, I use AI to create these pictures. Um, so I want to share one of the story I heard. This family, they were the very first one to arrive in their city, and they were so like lonely and depressed, and they were very sad every day. So when their sponsors came to see them, they saw the families in tears and looking sad. And so they asked the Hmong family, what they could do to help them, and they were able to tell their sponsor that they would like to see another Hmong family because they are so like desperate. And so one day, their sponsor um, came and drove them like 2 hours to see another Hmong family in another city. And they said that, seeing another Hmong family lifted their spirits and they were so happy. And I just wanted to share that. Um, and because, in our culture, the Hmong clans play a very significant role in providing a sense of community and social support, as well as serving as a source of legal authority and economic security for their members. Um, and also, I wanted to share that when they first came to America, they were scared. They were scared to do things wrong. They were scared to displease their sponsors. One thing that I want to share is one of the person I talked to said that the first time they heard a phone ring, they were scared. The whole family kind of like wonder what was going on. They thought was like it sounds like a gunshot, you know, these people, they were traumatized before coming to this country. And so hearing something like a noise that sounds like a gunshot, you know, like frightened them. And they were scared. And a lot of them were like jumping around and looking for what was going on. And I thought, you know, it shows a lot about how terrified these people were. Again, when they first came to America, they their sponsors gave them bread instead of rice, and for some of them, they had to go on bread for several weeks, and so craving for rice was, you know, like a challenge at the time, because you know rice is an essential staple in Laos, and for the Hmong people, it was the main dish for every meal, and it has always been the main dish, or at least you know we eat rice every day at every meal. And so coming to America without rice for like a couple of weeks was like torture. Um, yeah. So in the dreamer's dream, New's mom struggled to eat bread and lost some weight because of it. So Laos is a tropical country in Southeast Asia and has two main seasons, the wet and the dry. And so coming to America to a four-season country, it was shocking, especially snow, because the first wave of refugees, they did not have any, um, you know, like background knowledge that there are, you know, snow in America. And so coming to America, especially for those that came, you know, in December or January, coming to a city full of snow was very shocking and also very difficult to adjust to. Making eye contact is also a very difficult adjustment for especially Hmong women. Looking someone in the eye when talking to, again, was difficult for us Hmong women. Respect for us was to lower our eyes, so it was very difficult. And we had to remind ourselves that we are in America and that it's okay to look someone in the eyes when you talk to them. In Dreamer's Dream, Nu was able to look Peter in the eyes when she learned that that was how she showed respect to Peter and to her sponsor, and she wanted to be a very respectful girl, so that's why she tried it very hard to you know look people in the eyes after she learned that that was the right thing to do. Yeah, but again, you know, it's making eye contact when you talk to someone is the opposite of our culture. So it was a big hit of you know difficulties. Yeah, when we came to America, again, this first group they didn't have any idea that you know Americans like to kiss and wear swimming suits in public. So coming to America, seeing these people in public holding hands, kissing, wearing swimming suits were really like shocking. And but so in Dreamer's Dream, Nu refused to get the swimming suits um, at first. Then Peter had to you know like persuade her to you know buy because you have to wear them, otherwise you can't go swimming. So she had no choice but to buy them because you know she wanted to swim. But yeah, again, in our culture, we don't. I mean, public affection is just not something that we do in public. So it's very different coming to a culture that it's quite like opposite. So another culture shock was nursing home for us. In our culture, children are to take care of the parents when they are in their old age, and so coming and learning that Americans send their old parents to nursing home was again shocking, and it was something that they had to like learn to adjust to that. And like my mother, she's 90 years old right now, and if we send her to a nursing home, she will like be so depressed, and she would just cry and maybe get so sick, and never know what's going to happen. But they believe that they have children. The reason for having children is to have children to care for you when you're in your old age. And so to send your parents to a nursing home, it was something that they believe it's not what the children should do. It's like shameful. It's a shameful thing to do. And you will learn about that also in Dreamer's Dream. A culture shock for Americans was when Hmong kids walked outside barefoot. And Hmong kids in Laos didn't have shoes. They might be in America now and have shoes, but because they were used to going outside without any shoes, they forgot to put shoes on before leaving the door. And so the people I talked to, they said that when they see their Hmong neighbors and their children outside walking without shoes, they thought that was like weird, and or that the parents you know did not have shoes for them. Another culture shock was blowing your nose on the ground. Again, in Laos, we did have tissues, and we were used to blowing our nose on the ground, so we forget to do that. Even in America, even when we have tissues, because it's a bad habit. It just you get used to it and you forget to do. And so another family that I talked to said when their when their Hmong neighbors out walking, they didn't like it when they blow their nose on the grass. Okay. And for Hmong people at the time, they would rather spend their money on something more important than just buying tissues. And in Dreamer's Dream, New had to save every penny to buy a car. So buying tissues to use to blow your nose is not something that they will spend their money on. Um, so I put this. I guess it doesn't have that animation, but it's okay. So one thing I want to say is that, as you can see, as one can see, the first wave of refugees struggled with a new life, especially the language barrier. It prevented people from understanding the law. And in Dreamer's Dream, Sa was not familiar with the laws in America and ended up causing trouble for Nu by performing a tradition that was not that was acceptable in Laos but was not acceptable in America. And so I put on here Panat Nikum refugee camp. Panat Nikum refugee camp was a transitional camp. It was built in 1980 to prepare refugees for resettlement after witnessing the struggles of the first wave of refugees. This program was called Overseas Training Program, and it was funded by State Department. And so from now on, I will talk a little bit more about the Panani Kun camp and then my personal experience in America. Can't believe it. The picture is upside down now. Not sure why. But I was going to have you find me in the picture. Every year I made my student find me in this picture because this is the only picture I have of my classmates in Panani Kum, and this is our school. And so, and because, oh, I'm not sure what happened to the, okay, can't see very well Panani Kum. So again, Panani Kum was a transitional camp to prepare the refugees for the third country. And in this camp, they do survival English. In survival English, people learned about how to like ask for help, like I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I'm sick, I want to eat rice, things like that. And so the teachers teach the refugees, like basic English, so that they know how to get help, and they also teach the refugees community living skills, work orientation, job interviews, how to grocery shopping. Younger kids learn about American schools. And, in my classroom, in my class, we learned about, like what girls do in America, and what girls wear to school. And we learned that American girls wear pants to school, and you have to make eye contact when you talk to people in America. And there are snows in America, and that we have to wear coats and the proper clothing for the different seasons. My teachers, this teacher right here, I know you can't see it very well, but my teacher, she will bring like plastic food, like hamburgers, hot dogs, grapes, and all that to our class, and she'll teach them to us in English how to say like hamburger, hot dog, so that if we come to America, if we're hungry, at least we know how to like get food. And then we also learn about soda, like Pepsi, water, and all that while we were you know, in this program for 6 months. So other people have like less months, but my family, we were like the third wave of refugees, and in 1989, when we came, we had to stay in Panani Kum for 6 months for this program, to get us ready for America. And here's a picture of my husband. My husband's was learning how to answer a phone, and so that is him right there. That's my husband, and that's the phone. And I think that's the instructor teaching how to answer the phone, how to use the phone correctly. Also in Panani Kum, like I said earlier, we learned that American girls wear pants, and we have to practice that and be ready to come to America, able to wear pants. And so in this picture, you can see me wearing pants for the first time. Of course, not the first time I wear pants, but when we wear our traditional clothing, like you can see on this picture, we have the apron-like cloth that we cover the back and the front of our body. So like so people don't see our butt, But wearing this kind of pants, it it was weird and strange because I felt um, naked, or I feel like people see my butt because there's nothing to like, because the pants actually kind of cover your legs, and you feel like your whole body is showing. So it was very strange for the first time trying it though. So as you can, okay, I don't know, like I said, I'm not sure why the pictures are like that way. I'm not sure why. But if you can see in this top pictures right here, we girls wore sarong skirts. That was before our program, or like every day we wear like skirts, but after our program ended, and we have a big like celebration, like whoever was in charge of this program gave each of us soda and hamburger, and they wanted us to dress, like ready, like we're ready to go to America. And so if you look at this picture closely, um, most of the girls in here wore pants, like because we want to show our teachers and program directors that we were ready to come to America. And only one girl in this picture you can see here wore a tight skirt. Yeah, but we were ready after the program ended to come to America. Um, Again, the the training provided in Pananikun was beneficial for the second and the third waves of refugees. They were able, like they mean like us, me included into, because I was part of it. Um, we were able to adapt better in our new country and appreciated the new house that came equipped with water and electricity. However, despite these improvements, there were still other challenges that we faced as the third and the second waves of refugees coming to America. So here I do wanted to share that the second and the third waves of refugees, we were sponsored by our family members and relatives. So having family members who were already in the country and spoke English had helped the new arrivals adjust more easily. We had interpreters, so if we had to go to the doctor, we like we had interpreters to help us with that, so life was much easier. We were not like the first wave of refugees. However, the language barrier prevented like us from getting a job. So most of the families relied on welfare, and we were poor, and we had to farm to support our families. And with the food that we grow in our farms, we will sell them at the market. And as you can see here, poverty was a significant factor for some children to turn to gangs in search for a sense of belonging and security. And in 1989, when I came to America, yeah, I see a lot of Hmong boys join gangs. Some of the students in my classroom, I know they were part of some gangs members. And I wanted to share that in the 1980s, when my family arrived in Appleton, my mom was already like 60, and we were still like underage. So, of course, we relied on welfare. And, with that money, it was hard to survive. And so we every summer we will spend our summer picking cucumbers for pickles. And every summer, again, it was very hard work. We will go really early in the morning, and then we'll pick cucumbers all day until dusk. It was very hard work. And if you haven't done that, you don't know what hard work is. And I think that actually taught me about school, about education, that, if I don't want this hard work, I better study hard and do good and get a better job. And in the dreamer's dream, Nu had to pick strawberries and tomatoes to earn extra money so that she could send money to her brother in Thailand. And that's what most of the farmers, Hmong refugees did. They have to do something to earn extra money so that they can survive, so they can buy cars. So I want to talk a little bit about our cultural belief. And traditional Hmong people believe in shamanism and soul calling. So when an illness occurs, it could be that the soul is separated from the body. So a soul calling ritual is needed or a shaman is needed to determine what causes the illness. A shaman is a well respected person in our community. Traditional Hmong people continue to practice shamanism. A ritual requires several like people, and when you have a group over and your neighbors don't like what you are doing, they might call the police on you. And this happened a lot to our Hmong people. In the dreamer's dream, uh, yeah, Nu's family did a ritual, a shaman ritual, and her neighbor actually called the police on them because they didn't understand. And also shaman rituals versus Western medicine. Most Hmong at the time preferred shamanism over Western medicine, so many people refused to see a doctor. In Dreamer's dream, Nu's mom didn't want to see a doctor for her illness. She wanted a shaman. So, Nu adjusted to the new life well, but not her mother. I think her mother had the most difficult time adjusting because she was older. So adjusting was like easier for the younger people. Most Americans are wonderful people who are kind, very helpful. They are always willing to go the extra mile to support others, much like Peter in Dreamer's Dream, who did everything in his power to help Nu and her family. However, there are some Americans who are unfortunately ignorant and tend to cause trouble. In the 80s and 90s, many Hmong families in the U.S. got these awful phone calls. The calls were basically telling people to go back to their own country, to their home country. It made it a lot of people feel scared and unwelcome. And I myself got several phone calls telling me to go back to my country. And like the phone calls were mostly males that called. And anytime when the phone rang, you don't know who's calling you. It could be your relative. So I picked up several times, and man would say, "What are you doing here? Go back to your country. You don't belong to this country." And then I hang up the phone right away. And it happened to a lot of Hmong families in the community. And at first, I thought, it only happened to the Appleton people. But after I got married to my husband and I moved to Eau Claire, I also got phone calls telling me to go back to my country too. And you know, the first time I got a phone call while I was in Appleton, I asked my brother. I said, "How do these people know that it was that we were Hmong?" And my brother said, "It was easy. The phone book, you know, the phone book. People's last name are, in alphabetical or and in alphabetical order. And Americans learn that Hmong people, um, you know, like they know Hmong people's last name. There are only 18 clans, 18 last name, and so they learn that Vang are Hmong people, more, Lore, and they look at the phone book and they just pick random people to call. and they know for sure that we're Hmong because that's our last name. So this is what I learned from my brother, and that's why I show you a phone book because they look at the phone book, look at the people's last name, and they could identify Hmong people and make phone calls. Um, Family gathering for events. Hmong family events at home sometimes created problems for some neighbors who weren't aware of our cultural practices, and some have called the police on us. A couple months ago, when we did a soul calling ritual for my husband, and we invited a lot of people over, and our neighbors, didn't know what we were doing, so they called the police on us. The police came and they asked they asked us what we were doing, and so one of my husband's cousins told the police officer that, oh, we were just doing a celebration for our cousin, and we invited a lot of people over, and that's why we have quite a lot of people. Um, I mean, nowadays most people actually rent a place where they can go if they have a lot of people. But in my situation, well, it was just kind of like a small event, like a soul calling ritual. We don't, it's not like a party. So we thought it would be okay to do it at my house. But I just want to share that, coming to America, coming into America was difficult, and there's so many things to adjust. And also, there are discriminations, and life was difficult, and it's getting better though. But I'm just talking about like in the 90s and the 2000s. This is Dania. I put it on here because it's in the Dreamer's Dream, and I just wanted to explain that Dania, it's a baby carrier, and in Laos and Thailand, this is the baby carrier that we use to carry our babies. And my mother-in-law, when my children were younger, my mother-in-law used this um, dania to carry my children. And one day, my mother-in-law carried my one of my um, child on her back, and with my oldest son, they were walking on the street, and a group of boys came by, and they thought it was very funny, and they were laughing at my mother-in-law. Well, I'm pretty sure it was like the Daimia because they probably haven't seen it, and they were laughing and making fun of my mother-in-law. And so I put this in the dreamer's dream just to show that yes, these things actually happened to us. This is a class schedule, and well, I just wanted to show you that I came to America when I was 15 years old. Um, my first day, I had a very tough time on my first day, and so in Dreamer's Dream, I used my own experience to depict New's first day of school and the anxiety it caused to her, because on my very first day of school, it was horrible. I didn't know what a schedule was, even though I was like 15 years old and I went to a middle school. Actually, I was supposed to be in ninth grade, but I did not speak English. So they put me in eighth grade, and assuming I knew what a schedule was. And so I went to class, and um, my homeroom teacher gave me a schedule, and there was a Hmong boy in that class with me, and um, I didn't know how to read my schedule. And after the bell rang to first hour class, I thought I could just follow that Hmong boy to the classroom and I will be fine. And so I did. And I went into the classroom, and you know, after the teacher took attendance, my name was not on the attendance, and the teacher who did understand my trauma were not very nice, and he kind of speak very loud and kind of like scared me, and I was so embarrassed and scared too. And so I thought that people need to understand that you know, the first day was very difficult, and it was hard for a refugee child who had language barrier. And so as you can see that the experience, news school experience, uh, it's it's my experience. This one I wanted to show. This is my dictionary, and my brother gave me this dictionary so I can use it in class. It's a very small dictionary that you can put in your pocket. And so I use this dictionary a lot to help me understand new vocabulary words. And so in Dreamer's Dream, New also had a dictionary, a small dictionary like this that Peter gave her, and she used it to help her understand new vocabulary words. And this dictionary was very helpful to me, and I'm so glad I still have it because I looked for it and I found it, so I was really happy. But yeah, um, I studied really hard. Every day I'll come home and like spend hours like reading, translating, and just reading and using my little dictionary. And my oldest brother told me one day, "Sister, you are studying very hard. If you keep studying hard, you're going to be successful. So keep going, keep doing. I'm very proud of you." And I still remember my oldest brother's words to me that, if I work hard, I will be successful and I can do great things. I also want to just to show you some traditional Hmong food. In the story, Dreamer's Dream, this is the food that Nu cooked for her family a lot. And, this is the chicken boiled with herbs. And it is still very popular for my generation. Of course, my children don't eat this food anymore, but I know I still see other children when we go to a big event. I still see other children, my children's age, and they like eating, these traditional food. So I'm sure it's still very popular, not just for like people my age, but like young people as well too. Yeah, and again, Nu, because Nu were afraid of, like offering this food to Peter, so she wanted to learn how to cook American food so that she can feel proud and at least offer him some good food. But, um, she should have like tried this with him and see how it goes. All right, and so that comes to the end of my presentation. I wanted to just read this to you that the Hmong refugees' experiences were filled with challenges and triumphs. In Dreamer's Dream is a powerful account that sheds light on their experiences, both the struggles and triumphs. By learning about other people, we broaden our understanding and become more empathetic, which can help us create a more peaceful and accepting world. And in the Dreamer's Dream, um, Nu wanted to have a job because she wanted to have the power to help people, to create a community where Americans, are aware of Hmong culture, and that Hmong people know the law so that they can, live together peacefully. And so Do you have any questions for me?
So I'm looking to see if there's any questions coming up from
Okay.
our audience. And I will just start here unless I see some questions pop up. So, how old were you when you arrived in the United States? In
Yeah,
Apple?
yeah, I was 15 years old, and my oldest brother, who came to Appleton first, sponsored my family. So when we came, we actually lived with them in this little tiny small house with two bedrooms. And so we did not have money, and we were very poor, and we could not afford to rent an apartment. So we stayed with my brother in this two-bedroom house. One room was for my brother and his five kids, and then one room was for me and my mom, and then my other three brothers. They actually lived and slept in the living room every day.
I didn't realize you were 15. So you were born after the basically the fall of Laos to the communists,
Yes.
and you were born on the trek from there to Thailand. No? Yes?
Uh, not during the trek from Laos to Thailand. My family were in hiding for a year. So after the Vietnam War ended in 1975, my family fled to the jungle, and I was born on the way to a village to surrender because my father thought that having a baby coming and surviving in the jungle will be very difficult. So he decided to surrender. Um, there was a civil war right after that, and so that's why my dad, who was a soldier for the Americans, went into hiding, and that's why we spent like a whole year in hiding. But then my dad did not want my mom to give birth, and to give birth to me in the jungle and live there because he didn't think I would survive, being born in the jungle. So that's why on the way to a village, I was born. Yes.
So I'm trying to understand the time frame there. So
Uh,
how old were you when you got to the um, refugee camp in Thailand?
and again, in our culture, we don't have calendars, and we don't,
Right. Right.
our age like was like
Yeah.
accidentally. So, um, according to the age I am right now, I would say about 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
Yes.
So some of our audience may know this, and I don't want to make it about me, but it's interesting
Right.
for me
Hmm.
because I arrived in Appleton in 1988, I believe, and you got there in 1989.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
And when I arrived as a police officer. So I was about 22 or 23, and you were 15. So we're closer in age than I thought, but
Yeah.
in totally
Awesome.
different,
We are.
yes. So I was there when the people were just starting to, the Appleton had been a pretty much a white community.
Yes. Yes.
And but when I got there, there were Hmong people there, and the population was growing, and that clash of cultures was starting to rub and show.
Yes.
uh, we were starting to get the police were starting to have contact with the Hmong people, but nobody really understood anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was one of the first, if not the first officer who started learning about Hmong culture. And I would go to training and
Mm-hmm.
I would write down what I had learned in training, and I would type that up and I would put it in the officers' mailboxes so they could learn with me. And I was actually kind of surprised, but they read and they would come to me and they'd say, "That's really interesting, Tanya. I didn't know that. That's really interesting history."
Yeah.
And then after that evolved, I started being asked to present to the Hmong clanmen, which for the public here, is interesting because as a woman, your place as a American law enforcement woman was quite different from the Hmong woman's place.
Yes.
And so I still laugh at what they must have thought when the police department gave them a woman. But my job was to try then to explain the laws in the United States and the ordinances in Appleton to this crowd of elder Hmong men. And I would talk for like, you know, a minute or two, and then a translator, Joe Vang, would stand there for probably 10 minutes and explain what I said in 2 minutes. And it was just, and then you would see the men go back and forth, and it's something I didn't understand. But there was communication, but it was very slow. And we met that way for several times. But, you know, the kind of things we would get calls about would be like chicken ordinance violations, or occasionally a domestic type dispute, or what really started to rear its head though when it was probably more in the 90s, was the Hmong marriage kidnappings, which are you talk about in your book. And so I feel like such a kindred spirit, like I'm part of this story, but on the other side. And it's so fun for me to read it from that perspective. And that's really one of the reasons we have so many programs at the library that involve diversity, is just because it's really eye-opening. We think I'm doing all the talking here, but I think that what happened in Laos has almost repeated itself to a certain extent in Afghanistan, which is when the U.S. decides to leave, they leave.
Yes.
And when the U.S. and the CIA left Laos, they just left.
They just left, yes.
And the Hmong families who had fought alongside the CIA were left with their lives hanging in the balance. And it's just incredible stories.
Yes. And I hope people will read the Illiterate Daughter, because you're right, they will understand the Americans left. And now these people, they have to flee to the jungles to hide, or they could get killed. And they have no choice but to go, you know, hiding for a little while, and then they have to flee the country. Like my dad, he didn't want to go to, you know, Thailand. And so that's why we spent a whole year in the jungle, just fleeing from place to place, try to survive. But then at the end, my dad said, "This is too complicated. I don't think it's safe for us anymore. So I'm gonna take my family and leave the country." But it was later in 1986, or it was 1983, that's when he made it the decision.
Well, we are heading to the 7:30 hour, and I have so enjoyed hearing your stories and talking to you and reading your two books. I hope other people will pick up a copy of your book. We have copies at the library, and learn and admire this culture in a way that we haven't before. I want to let the audience know thank you for watching, and thank you to Chia. We have some things coming up at the library that you might be interested in. Around May 20th and 21st, we are starting to put out a seed library. Basically, you could pick up some free seeds to plant while we have supplies, and we also have some tomato plants while supplies last. And then as we get through that, we are starting into the summer reading program, which starts on June 10th. So stay tuned to the River Falls Public Library, and thank you so much, Chia, for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.